Okay, so we're recording. And I just want to give a brief update today. So Mike and I have been looking at, again, trying to capture um, what it uh, what it looks like to separate out the collection logic from the other logics, the structural logics and the modal logics. So again, if we look at the basic construction of the in the OSLF, if we're looking at the basic construction of the logics associated with the monoid, it divides into three different groups. You have the group of formulae constructors that correspond to sorry, the air quality here is very, very bad. So apologies if my voice is a bit messed up. We've had some really, really awful time here. So anyway, if you look at the basic construction of the monoid, it divides into three groups. One is the the connectives that just have to do with the fact that you're collecting the witnesses of the formulae in sets, and so that gives rise to your Boolean or other connectives. And then you have the structural connectives that correspond to, in the case of the monoid, the monoid constructors. And then you have, if you have a rewrite system for normalizing the monoid expressions, then you would get modal formulae that correspond to the rewrites. So that's that's the basic framework, and what we're trying to do is to figure out how to separate out apologies. We're trying to figure out how to separate out the logic that's associated with the collection part. Apologies. So, Mike observed that. So what I'd been following was, if we go down the path of trying to generalize the construction that Christian gives, where we're looking at presheaves, over the theory. So set to the theory op. Then if we want to generalize that, so let's say T is our theory and V is our collection, then if we're going to use something that manifests in a Unada-like kind of setting, so that a sort T in our theory, capital T, goes to a Hom collection in V. So the Hom collection is capital T blank, comma, little t in V, then that means that the theory has to be enriched over V, meaning that the Hom sets have to support the V collection idea. So V has to be at least monoidal closed, monoidal category. And then there's a version of the innata lemma called the enriched innata lemma that gives um, an embedding of T into T op V if V is a symmetric monoidal closed. So all of that is actually good news because, for example, if we wanted V to be a model of linear logic, then it would be exactly symmetric monoidal closed, which is precisely what we want. Um, and now what we have to do is kind of grind through a bunch of the details and the calculations, and that's sort of where we are, is grinding through some of those calculations. But that's actually a fairly good place to start. To say that T has to be uh, um, enriched over V, and that V has to be at least a symmetric monoidal closed. And so in the case where that the product is the monoid, then you would get the topos construction, and otherwise you get a something that's more akin to linear logic. So right now that's promising. Mike is a little bit shy of this because it involves a lot of higher category theory, and was looking at some other alternatives that might be more easily calculatable. But I don't, personally, I don't think that we need to shy away from the calculations. We just need to kind of go ahead and crank them out. But that's essentially where we're headed with this variation of the construction. It's still it in the same way that the distributive law sort of forces the collection thing to be very set-like. This is forcing things to be somewhat more set-like, but not so set-like that we would eliminate the linear logic construction, which is what we really would like to preserve. So that's it in a nutshell. Let me check and see if there are any questions about this.
Previously, you said that this looks similar to set of lists. Is this like similar to?
Set of lists is one way to think about models of formulae of linear logic. So the formulae of linear logic is going to be are modeled by a quantale, and there's a representation theorem for quantales that every quantale is going to be mapped onto power set of the set of lists of some generator. so that will give you a concrete interpretation of V, where V is a symmetric monoidal closed. But you could have other models.
I see.
Any other questions? All right. Well, we don't have to have a long Casper stand-up today. It can be relatively short. It's been a very tough weekend for us here in the Pacific Northwest. If you look up, the air quality is the worst in the world because of the fires. So it's off the charts, miserable. So we've had a rough go the last few days it's so bad that I can't really even take my Australian Shepherd out for too much walking because it'll kill her. So she's a little frustrated that she can't get her usual amount of exercise. Um, but and we're only at the beginning of fire season, so it's not the best time here in the Pacific Northwest, which is impacting being able to think clearly and do this kind of work. But still grateful to be able to get in a few moments here and there. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we can give our yield back the time and rejoin in about 45 minutes.
I just want to say that I hope you will have like better air. If
Yeah,
air is
well,
not good, it's
I was just going to say, the one saving grace is it's starting to become fall and it's getting colder, and which means the cloud cover comes back, which means that the rain comes back. And if it were to rain, it would be a godsend because it would knock the particulate out of the air.
yeah.
But so far we haven't had rain yet.
I hope it will be soon.
Yeah, so do we. Thanks very much. All right, good people. I'll see you in about 45 minutes.
Great. Thanks, Greg.
See you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.